Fight scenes are a big part of LEGO stop motion. They're one of the key elements to any great stop motion and, if done properly, can be really fun to watch. These are the 10 tips to make awesome fight scenes. This is probably the most important tip to not only fight scenes but all of stop motion. Easing in and out is when you animate tiny movements before and after an action. If you don't use this, your animations will feel fake and robotic. Following this tip alone will already make your animations look much better, but knowing the right spacing will take time to learn. One way to learn the spacing is to watch your favorite brick filmer's animation and go frame by frame studying how they space their frames. Wind up. Winding up is very important to make your punches impactful as well as obvious to the viewer. You want to make your animations easy to watch, and using anticipation makes the action more visible and easily understood. Winding up gives the punch more impact, because the more distance the arm has to travel, the faster the punch can be. Follow through. Follow through is just as important as winding up. This happens after the punch and gives the punch more weight. Because the punch was moving so fast, it can't stop right away and goes past the impact point. If you've ever seen the Karate Kid movies or Cobra Kai, it's kind of like that.
The Cobra Strike is composed of 2 parts. The lunge, which requires the use of the whole body, and the bite, which is everything that happens after you make contact. You don't stop here where knuckle hits the bone, punch through the bone, like the guy you really want to hit is standing behind this asshole.
A powerful punch is where you push past the opponent. The same applies in stop motion. Hits. Okay, now we mostly covered the animation of the person hitting. Now let's cover the animation of the person being hit. This one's not too complicated because it actually uses some of the other tips like easing in and easing out. On the impact of the hit, the fist should be touching the character and also pushing the character back just a little bit like this. Then you have the character move back farther in each frame and then slow down when the character hits the ground. Falling. When the character hits the ground, he or she should bounce off the ground. This gives the character weight and is more realistic. Depending on their weight, they will bounce a lot or very little. Please don't do this, please. For instance, if a character weighs a normal amount, they would bounce like this, and if a character weighs a lot, they would bounce like this. Friction of the ground should also be compensated for. I kind of talked about this before, but when the character hits the ground, they exponentially decrease their speed. Blocks. Without blocks, your fight scene isn't complete. Well, I mean it could be, but you can't really have your fight scene last 1 second. The opponent should at least put up a fight. If you want a good fight scene, that is. When a character blocks the punch, you should see the resistance. You can convey this by using ease in and out and having the characters push each other while locking fists. Then just put the punches together with the blocks and you have a much more complete fight sequence. Pacing. Pacing can make or break your fight scene. Pacing problems are very common in beginner animators and happens when you rush a fight. To solve these problems, try and add more shots of the character's face where you see their reaction to the scene. And I know you're thinking, it's LEGO, they don't actually have moving facial expressions. But doing this helps with pacing and also mimics real live action cinematography. And also you could actually change their head. I mean, that's cool I guess, but I don't know. Camera movement. A fight scene without any camera movement can be really boring and uninteresting, and adding it can make your fights much better. There are different ways to use camera movement. One of the most common ways to use it in fight scenes is by tracking. As you can imagine, tracking is when you follow a part of the action with the camera. For example, you can track the punch by moving the camera so that the fist is relatively in the same spot of the frame. Another way to use camera movement is actually by moving the set. This technique can be adapted in many ways, like you can rotate the set or even move the pieces in the set like this to create the illusion of camera movement. Weapons. Weapons are another factor in great fight scenes. You can use guns, knives, spears, lightsabers, web shooters, bananas.
I mean, if you want to animate with bananas for weapons, you can, all power to you, honestly.
There are a few techniques to really sell these weapons. I have a bunch of these spear pieces, so I'm not too worried about them. For this animation, I broke one of these spears, like this, so I could make it seem like the character was getting stabbed. For animating guns, add some pieces like this to create a muzzle flash, and shine a light on the set to create realistic lighting. Animate the arm holding the gun to recoil as well. The muzzle flash should only be like 1 frame, by the way. You can do lightsaber effects like this if you have After Effects, Final Cut Pro, or HitFilm. I really hope you guys learned something new in this video, and I encourage you to try some of these techniques in your next stop motion. Click on this video next to see me try and make 3 stop motions under a time limit.